Sometimes I have to dig pretty deep to find records of some of the people I research, and although fun, it can be a little frustrating and even tedious at times. Well, this is the first person I've researched who had a whole book written about him. Today I'm at the grave of Joshua Williams, Revolutionary War soldier and the first settler of Great Pond, Maine. Joshua was a proud Mayflower descendant, specifically a fourth great-grandson of Thomas Rogers, who also happens to be my 11th great-grandfather. Joshua was from Taunton, Massachusetts, and joined the Colonial Army during the Revolutionary War, and was wounded at the Battle of Bunker Hill, being shot in the hip with a musket ball, and left the military after the Battle of Long Island. He lived in Taunton for some years after that, running a grist mill, and eventually moved to China, Maine for a few years with his wife Bethia and their children, before settling at Great Pond, then called Plantation 33. He was the first settler to move here, and he built a log cabin with his family on the west-facing slope of this hill, possibly somewhere near this field. Being a millman, he expected to be running a sawmill for other new arrivals to build their homes, but very few settlers came after him, and he instead spent the rest of his life struggling to run a farm of his own. Bethia died in 1820, and Joshua died in 1833 in his cabin, crippled from his war wounds. Two of their 6 children, Mary and Simeon, stayed in Great Pond, and their descendants still live in the area today. Many years after Joshua's death, John Black, an Englishman who owned much of the land in the area, laid claim to the land that Joshua's descendants had already paid off from their original debtors. But the records were lost, and John Black and his board of trustees forced everyone in Great Pond to rebuy their land from him, despite the fact that he also had no records or deeds. I can't say if this is a nefarious act perpetrated by John Black himself or by the trustees of his estate after his death, but it's a good example of a heinous act of greed against poor farmers from people who are already worth millions. The book also says Joshua is buried in his mowing yard, surrounded by evergreen trees. Unfortunately, that place is probably forgotten to all, which is undoubtedly why his headstone was put in the cemetery, rather than his actual burial place. If you like these stories, give me a like and subscribe, and I'll do my best to satisfy your graveyard cravings. Thanks for watching.